If I had a magic pill that naturally boosted your emotional immune system against all negativity, negative programming, stress, and feelings of overwhelm, would you want it? And what if the only side effect was that it made your brain faster, it improved your memory, focus, and concentration, and it made you feel good? Would you take it? Well, I'm guessing you already know that such a thing doesn't exist. I wish it did, because it would make life so much easier in so many ways. But what if I told you that I had something almost as good? In many ways, it's actually better. What if, in less time than it takes for most people to enjoy a cup of coffee, you could begin building up your emotional immunity to things like stress, fear, and negativity? Well, you might think I fell off my rocker, and I hit my head or even lost my mind. But let me tell you, I didn't hit my head, at least not today, and I haven't lost my mind. Although what happened to me was very devastating, it led me to a solution that can make you immune to stress, fear, anxiety, overwhelm, and all forms of negativity and negative programming. And the most common side effect? Well, it's a brain that works better, faster, and more efficiently over time. Hi, my name is Jeffrey Gignac, and this is my wife and I taking a selfie aboard the Holland America cruise ship named the MS New Amsterdam at the annual NLP, the Common Denominator Conference, where I gave a keynote address on brainwave science. Now you can see here, I'm really happy. I'm a little sunburned too. But things weren't always very happy in my life. See, if you've ever been stuck in a bad rut where nothing goes the way you want it to, and everything you do either does nothing at all or makes things worse, then you know the true price of negative programming, stress, and feelings of overwhelm. You already know the devastation that it can cause. So years ago, I got stuck in an epic rut that lasted nearly 2 years. I lost my home, my wife left me, and I ran up more debt than I thought I would ever be able to pay off. When I hit rock bottom, I had a moment of clarity, and it literally saved my life. I finally understood how things got so bad and what I needed to do to change it. Out of sheer desperation, I put together a simple strategy based on everything I knew about NLP, neuroscience, and neuroplasticity to turn it all around. After some refinement and a little experimentation, I found something that not only worked, it literally made me immune to it ever happening again. That was 13 years ago, and since then, I perfected and refined this strategy and taught it to thousands of people from around the globe with breathtaking results. Today, I'm going to teach you the new evolution of this process, and I'm going to show you how to begin using it to build and strengthen your emotional immune system more and more each day. Now, let me be clear. This is not a magic pill that will automatically turn your life into pure bliss, but it is a strategy that works. And once you start using it, I think you're really going to be amazed with your results. So before we get started, there are some things you should know. This strategy includes the use of a very powerful technology that I've developed called Passive Brain Fitness Video. Passive Brain Fitness Video is the most powerful an advanced form of brainwave entrainment and brainwave stimulation on the market today, bar none. Now, initially, I created Passive Brain Fitness Video as an alternative to brain games and other brain-building activities. And it's not because I don't like brain games or brain-building activities. It was that I couldn't use them during the day because they're not very portable. They take too long, and most of the time, they actually made my brain tired. If you've ever done a brain-building activity for any amount of time, you start to feel like your consciousness is being drained, right? That you're burning up your conscious energy. And that made it so I couldn't use it during the day, because during the day is when I really need to be at my best. I wanted an easy way that I could strengthen my brain and keep it healthy. And as someone approaching my mid-40s, this is really important to me. I wanted a way to immediately increase my focus and concentration, reduce stress and elevate my mood, and I wanted to do it in 10 minutes or less. Now, I realized that when I started out on this mission, this would not be easy, but after 10 years of research and development, nearly $75,000 worth of my own personal time and money. Passive brain fitness video does everything I wanted it to do and so much more. I'm going to give you a link at the end of this training session so you can try it for yourself. You'll also get a short video that explains the technology and everything that it can do for you. So make sure you watch it. For now, I want to get down to business teaching you the interrupt, balance, and rewire process that, when used properly, will naturally boost your emotional immune system a little more and more each day. But what I would like you to do before we dive in is take a moment and imagine life without negative stress. Imagine life without debilitating anxiety or fear and feelings of overwhelm. What would that be like for you? And ask yourself, how would things change for you? How much more will you accomplish when you don't have to deal with all those negative emotions that are choking off access to your creative resources and your totally abundant subconscious resources? And how happy can you really be? I mean, you'll find out, right? If you're not dealing with stress, fear, anxiety, and overwhelm. Imagine for a moment that you have full control over your emotional operating system and you are now fully immune to anything negative that may come your way. So as you imagine that as a reality, how are you feeling? See, I want you to know that you can make this a reality in your life if you apply this strategy and use the technology and build up your emotional immune system. Now, take a deep breath, or two, maybe three, just to be sure, and give this your full attention, because starting now, I'm going to show you how this all works. The strategy we're going to learn today is called interrupt, balance, and rewire. Now, please do not let the simplicity of this process fool you. As humans, we often mistakenly think that complex problems require complex solutions. We overcomplicate things when in reality, the simplest solution is often the right one. While this process is simple and easy for anyone to use, it is deeply rooted on the fundamental principles of neuroscience and neuroplasticity. And just because it helps for you to understand how and why this process works, I want to cover those fundamentals with you right now. Number one, anything you think, do, and feel will become easier and more automatic the more you do it. You build strong neural pathways through repetition. And the vast majority of your negative programming that you have right now actually came about because, even though you didn't mean to, you practiced it. You did it often. Number two, when a physical, mental, or emotional program is interrupted and redirected, that program will begin to change and evolve. So if there's triggers in your life that bring on feelings of overwhelm, stress, or anxiety, that's a program, that's an emotional program, and it runs most of the time on automatic. But if you interrupt that, scramble the electrical activity in your brain, and redirect it somewhere else, okay, that trigger and your response to that trigger, that whole program, will begin to evolve and change. And we can redirect that change to something that you like. Number three, the faster, stronger, and more frequent those interruptions occur, the faster the program will change and evolve. The brain changes fast. Number four, the brain has an amazing ability to generalize. So based on a couple experiences, your brain can learn to feel a certain way to all similar experiences only after a few times. This is a concept we're going to use in this strategy to really help transform your life. Number five, from an electrical standpoint, the brain does not distinguish from what is vividly imagined and reality. There was a great piece of research out years ago that showed people that had lost their ability to use certain muscles temporarily, and that through vividly imagining exercise, those muscles stopped the atrophy process. And as a matter of fact, in many of them, their muscles actually grew stronger just by thinking about exercise, by visualizing it. This is the power of the brain, and this is the power of your imagination. So the interrupt, balance, and rewire process takes advantage of all these important fundamentals of neuroscience to help you quickly increase your emotional immunity to just about anything that you choose. For the purpose of this training, I'm going to use the example of feelings of overwhelm, because recent research shows that overwhelm is at the top of emotions that stops people from being happy and successful. It causes people to do the wrong things, make the wrong choices, and get stuck in their life. So this is why I'm going to use this example. Now, to prepare, you need to do a few things. So the first thing you want to prepare when you are about to run this process is identify what you want to be immune to. You know, a feeling that you want to swap out for something else. Now, my example that I'm using is overwhelm. I also want you to be aware of the times of day that you normally feel overwhelmed, or whatever feeling it is that you're going to be working with. What are the triggers? What sets it off? Then I want you to think of a feeling that you would rather have instead. So would you rather feel happy, peaceful, calm, or maybe you want to be excited, motivated? Pick something that you would rather feel instead of overwhelm, or that feeling that you're working with. The next thing I want you to do to prepare is find a song, a piece of music that will get you that feeling that you want to have. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but get a song that makes you feel good, or that's appropriate, that's in the neighborhood of the feeling that you want to, have instead of the bad feeling. So everybody's got a song that when they hear it, they automatically feel good. Choose a physical pattern interrupt. This is really important. This is what you're going to use to interrupt the program, the trigger, the emotional response to the trigger. Now, I've got written down here the dog mouth, jumping, and big breath. These are 3 examples of pattern interrupts, and you can experiment with your own if you like, or experiment with these. So let me describe what the dog mouth is. I gave it this name because if you've ever seen a dog come out of the water and it shakes its head and its body, right? This is what you want to do with yourself. And it's kind of funny. It makes me laugh. I'm going to give you an auditory example of what this sounds like, okay? And then I'll describe a little bit more about how to do this. It makes me laugh every time I do that. I'm shaking my head back and forth, letting my tongue flap around, letting my cheeks kind of go side to side, very loose. And this is a great pattern interrupt. You don't want to shake too hard. You don't want to hurt yourself. It's good to make that vocalization as well, right? But after studying brains and EEG readings from people, this type of movement is an excellent physical pattern interrupt that breaks the neural pathway, that interrupts that neural pathway that runs the negative feeling. Now, jumping around, waving your hands up in the air and, shaking your body a little bit, that does the same thing, all right? And also what I call the big breath is another great pattern interrupt. And this is very similar to what martial artists do when they're about to break ice or logs or all the other crazy things that they break with their hands or elbows, right? You hear them explode their breath out from their diaphragm, and often sounds something like this. Now, when you breathe that way and explode that breath out, that also does a great job at interrupting, whatever pattern that you're trying to break, whatever process, whatever program you're trying to break. My favorite is the dog mouth. It seems to work the best, but depending on your physicality and what you're capable of doing, you'll pick the one that makes sense for you. Now, the last preparation is to get a passive brain fitness video ready to play on your computer with a set of headphones already connected. You want to cue it up and have it ready to go, right? Now, remember, I'm going to give you a link to download a passive brain fitness video at the end of this presentation. So just keep focused on what you need to do to prepare for now and the step-by-step process that we're going to start right now. So step 1 is you either wait for it or use your imagination. Now, what do I mean by wait for it? Well, when certain things happen, certain triggers occur, you start to have that bad feeling, right? So it's great to catch yourself in the process running that negative emotion so you can interrupt it and do the rest of the things that we're going to do. But for the most part, you're going to be using your imagination, because Oftentimes, life isn't just that convenient, right? That you can, have everything ready, at the exact point in time that the feeling of overwhelm or whatever it is that you're working with, to show up. So you'll use your imagination, right? Imagine the triggers. Imagine what has to happen before you start to feel overwhelmed. Now, as soon as that negative feeling starts to come on, based on your imagination or life circumstances, I mean, if you kind of catch yourself in the moment, I want you to do your physical pattern interrupt. And this is going to scramble the electrical activity in your brain in a good way, making it harder for the same feeling to run again in the future. Step 3, I want you to watch the 10-minute passive brain fitness video with your headphones on. This will help to rebalance and activate your higher brain functions, and it'll begin the rewire process. Step 4, put your song on and imagine yourself feeling the way you want to feel as you're moving around and dancing around to the song. Okay, it's a simple process. That's it. So use your imagination. Think about the triggers. Imagine yourself living your life, doing whatever it is you're doing, and the triggers show up. Then the feeling starts to come in your body, and you start to feel it come on. Then immediately you do your physical pattern interrupt. You do that for 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds. Do it longer, 20 seconds if the intensity of the motion is real strong. You might only have to do it for 5 seconds if you're working with a mild negative emotion. And then as soon as you do your physical pattern interrupt, you watch the passive brain fitness video. This is a critical step because after you've scrambled the electrical activity in your brain, what you want to do is balance the brain and get whole brain electrical activity. You want good energy going back and forth from the right side to the left side and the left side to the right side. Okay, this will prime your brain for the rewire process, acceptance of that new feeling. Okay, and then the 4th step is get that song on that makes you feel good. And as you listen to it, dance around to it, right? And imagine the feeling you really want to feel. And this will complete the rewire process. I told you, it's a pretty simple process. Step 5 is you rinse and repeat until you can no longer feel overwhelmed, or again, whatever feeling you're working with in regards to that situation and trigger. Now, the great part about this strategy is this. You might have to do this several times, right, if you've got multiple triggers, but the brain's ability to generalize, right, will take this. Step 5, rinse and repeat until you can no longer feel overwhelmed or whatever feeling that you're working with in regards to that situation or trigger. It's that simple. Have faith and give this a try. If you have several triggers and situations that make you feel overwhelmed, you will have to go through this process a few times until it begins to generalize and feelings of overwhelm no longer exist regardless of the situation. Earlier, we talked about the brain's amazing ability to generalize, and this is very important here. So let's say you have 20 triggers or situations that bring up that feeling of overwhelm. So your brain has learned that certain types of triggers or situations equal overwhelm. Well, you don't have to run this process 20 times, but you will have to run it a few times until the brain begins to generalize that these types of triggers or situations do not equal overwhelm, but instead equal that good feeling that we're rewiring into the brain, that feeling that you chose to have instead of the bad feeling. When you start using this process, it's important to begin using it with mild negative emotions. Don't use this with the strongest negative fear or emotion you have right out of the gate. Choose something a little less intense while you build up your power with this process. The biggest mistake that you can make is tackling the biggest problem you have the first time around. I tell my clients to start with something that is only mildly annoying and then scale up from there. See, I want you to approach this process and strategy as you would approach learning to play a new musical instrument for the first time. Now, you wouldn't pick up a difficult and complex song to play the first time with that instrument, would you? That would only lead to frustration. This process is simple, but just like any musical instrument, all of you will play it a little bit differently based on tiny little distinctions that you'll discover on the way. And as you continue to practice and play, you will master this process, but you will master it in your own way. So what are these tiny little distinctions like? Well, you might find that you have to imagine something for 30 seconds instead of 15 seconds. You might find different ways of imagining. You might find different ways to use the physical pattern interrupt that work for you that are slightly different, that other people don't do, right? Tiny little distinctions. This is why it's important to start off really slow with easy, mild emotions. And as each new tiny success builds on the one before, right, you will begin to flow with one of the most powerful and unstoppable forces in the universe. And that is momentum. And as you make this process your own, you may find a better way, right? As you find out how this works for you, the best possible way to make it work for you, you might find a way to make this process even better and more effective for everyone in the world. And I would hope, if this happens, that you would email me and tell me about it. The link below this presentation will take you to your free passive brain fitness video. All right? So download it, put it on your computer, and use this process. Watch this video a few times if you have to, right? To really get this process down. Right? And pick a really tiny emotion to start with. And as you have success with it, and you find out the best way for you to run this process so it works the best, it won't be long before you're tackling these really big quality of life issues, right? It won't take long at all. So be patient with yourself, start small, and you will have great success with this strategy. All right, until next time, my name is Jeffrey Gignac. I wish you an amazing day. Bye for now.